Today, we're going to recap a 2011 action fantasy film called I Am Number 4. It all starts at night, in a forest, where two men are hiding. One of them hears noises and takes his blade to look at what's happening. All of a sudden, they get attacked by some creatures. While being pursued by the beast, the young man, known as Number 3, attempts to get away. However, he is caught by the commander, who grabs his necklace and finishes him on the spot. The young man dies and turns to dust. The commander, from an alien race called Mogadorians, places the necklace around his neck along with others, which suggests that Number 3 was not his first victim. The movie shifts to John Smith, or Number 4, who is having a blast in the ocean with his friends. That evening, he goes swimming with a girl and his leg begins to glow, causing him to scream in pain. He also sees what appears to be Number 3's spirit, who warns him of an imminent danger. People see the scene and record John behaving strangely, mocking him as a freak. John awakens near the ocean and is joined by a man named Henry. Number 3 and John are youngsters with superpowers, and each of them has a protector who must do everything to safeguard them from mortal perils. Henry, his protector, notices the wound on his leg and understands that Number 3 has been killed. As a result, he rapidly takes John to a coastal cottage and destroys all pieces of evidence he can find before leaving. During the trip, John states that he and 8 other gifted children with superpowers escaped from the planet Lorien after it was invaded by the Mogadorians, or Mogs, the bald aliens seen earlier. Since the Mogs must kill the children in ascending order, the scars on his leg indicate that numbers 1, 2, and 3 have already been eliminated. Now John is the enemy's next target, and Henry gives him a new identity, adding that he must remain hidden. They decide to move to an old house in Paradise, Ohio, for safety. There, he comes across a poster of a football star named Bernie Kosar. A small lizard subtly follows them to the house. Henry attempts to erase everything John has in social media, so the Mogs can't track him down. Suddenly, the two are surprised by a strange noise outside the house. The reptile turns into a dog. John chooses to keep him and gives him the name Bernie Kosar. At first, Henry is against the idea, but John says it is just a dog and shows no threat. Later that evening, Henry sneakily hides a mysterious box inside a wall clock, unbeknownst to John. It is a box for John, left by his father before he passed away, and John is supposed to get it at the right time. In the meantime, Number 6 arrives at the bungalow to look for John, but finds no one. She decides to burn it, and after an explosion, the girl turns out to be fireproof. The next morning, John changes his mind and insists on going to school. He promises to be unnoticeable, so Henry hands him a phone and reluctantly lets him go. When he arrives at school, we see the dog has followed him there. While waiting for his school schedule, he notices Sarah, who is in the principal's office because she has secretly photographed a teacher in the classroom. The administrative staff orders Sarah to accompany John to his locker. Henry then calls him to check if everything is okay, but he doesn't answer. Mark James and his friends approach John and introduce themselves. When the bully walks away, John sees him hit a nerdy boy named Sam and throw away his skateboard. He gives his skateboard back and befriends him. After school, John notices that Sam is again being bullied by Mark. Infuriated, John picks up a football and violently throws it at one of Mark's classmates, knocking him down. He then discovers that Sarah is showing interest in him by discreetly photographing him from a distance. That evening, John discovers a website where Sarah keeps all her photographs, including an album of him. Henry somehow finds it and manages to delete all of John's pictures so he won't be seen. Meanwhile, the Mogs find out that Number 4 is still alive after discovering the burned bungalow. The next day in class, John's palms begin to emit an extremely intense beam of light, known as lumen. Henry senses something is going on when he notices the same light in the wall clock and rushes to the school. Freaking out, John flees into the janitor's room and tries to make the light go away. Henry finds John and reassures him, explaining that the light means his superpowers will start to show. Upon their arrival at the mansion, Henry informs John that he will get stronger and faster, and that he must learn to control his powers. He also tells John that he can't return to school until he learns to control his powers. Intrigued by what he can do, he shows it to the dog and then sneaks out of the house through the window. He experiments with his powers, throwing a stone that crosses layers of the atmosphere and performing some impressive jumps. In the meantime, the Mog Commander buys everything he finds in the grocery store and feeds it to some massive unknown beasts. Back to John, he unexpectedly meets Sarah on the street and takes her for a walk, during which they notice Sam with his stepfather across the street. She invites him to her home for dinner and introduces him to her family. Her parents tell him that their daughter is very interested in photography and advise them to go to the town's night carnival. After dinner, they go to her room and John discovers her scrapbook, which reveals that the girl doesn't like to be photographed. Unfortunately for him, his dog Bernie unexpectedly appears outside the house, barking continuously and forcing him to leave. We see Mark jealously watching him as he walks away. The next day, Sam questions John about what happened to his hands in class, but he refuses to talk. As Sam counsels his friend to avoid Sarah, the paint Mark had set earlier explodes from their lockers. The paint partially ruins Sam's photo with his biological father. He gets enraged and throws himself at the bully. John's palms begin to glow again, but he manages to keep his cool and walks away. While cleaning himself in the bathroom, the nerdy boy tells him about his real father, who is obsessed with aliens and has mysteriously disappeared. Sam claims that aliens have abducted his father. John sees Sarah in the school hallway, but decides not to talk to her. Henry, who has been conducting research on Sam's father, visits an old factory where Sam's father used to run tests. There he discovers enigmatic signs on the column and a peculiar glowing rock on the ground, known as a locator. Henry takes it home and begins to study it. Meanwhile, John is in his room when he receives an invitation from Sarah to an event. During the Spring Scream Festival, Sarah reveals that she and Mark used to date and that Mark purposely spread bad rumors about her after their breakup. The two then embark on a creepy carriage ride through the woods. When they arrive at the next area, Hell's Gate, Mark and his friends attack them and begin beating John up. Meanwhile, one of the attackers kidnaps Sarah and takes her to Mark. As Sam secretly watches them, John is forced to use his abilities, beating all of them. He eventually rescues Sarah and nearly breaks Max's arm. He walks Sarah home and finally gets to kiss her. They both seem to be in love with each other. As he is walking home, John realizes his strength is increasing when he breaks a lamppost with his hand. After getting a text from Sam, John visits the latter's house and reveals to him that he is not from planet Earth, confirming that Sam's father was right all along. John warns him not to tell anyone and Sam agrees. The next day, a local sheriff, who turns out to be Mark's father, arrives at John's house and interrogates him. The sheriff accuses him of attacking his son, but John denies it, claiming he was with a girl the previous night. Henry feels proud of John, because he is getting used to his abilities and controlling them. Soon after, a video of John screaming in pain in the ocean goes viral, and Henry advises them to leave quickly because this one he can't delete remotely. Since John has fallen in love with Sarah, he disobeys and refuses to go. He starts an argument with his protector and they have a brief fight. While going after whoever posted the video, Henry is captured and John gets a suspicious call informing him about it. Together with Sam, they travel to the informed destination on a rescue mission. When John arrives, he instructs Sam to follow a man who just left the house, while he sneaks into the place. He gets to the basement and finds several newspaper articles about missing persons and eventually discovers Henry, who is immobilized. The kidnappers turn out to be two conspiracy theorists sent by the Mogs. It was all a trap to attract John. A Mog then bursts through the door and attacks them. As John and Sam escape, Henry fights the alien. They all get to the car and John has to use his powers to start the vehicle since Sam lost the keys. However, before they manage to leave, one of the Mogs appears and stabs Henry in the chest. As they drive away, Henry hands John his special knife and tracker, revealing that Sam's father used the rock to search for Lorian's surviving children. Before dying, he orders John to find his own kind, as their combined powers would yield a much better chance of stopping the Mogs. Unsuccessful in capturing John, the aliens arrive at the home of the conspiracy theorists and execute them. Meanwhile, local sheriffs invade John's home and declare him and Henry as terrorists. Sarah gets suspicious and asks John who he really is. As they are driving, Sam reveals he has another fragment of the rock his father discovered while searching for aliens in Mexico. As Bernie helps Sam find the rock in its hiding place, John stops by Sarah's house to clear the air and say goodbye. However, the cops eventually arrive at the house and corner John and Sarah on the roof. Sarah falls off the roof as she stands up. Fortunately, John uses his telekinesis power to prevent her from hitting the ground. He demonstrates his skills again when he is forced to use telekinesis to stop a police car. The two escape from the cops and choose the school as their place to hide. Meanwhile, the mods arrive in a convoy of trucks and confront Mark and his father. The mod leader threateningly orders Mark to take them to John. Sam tells his friend that the mods have surrounded the school. As the two try to escape, Number 6, also known as Jane, appears with her special weapon and helps them fight the aliens. A fight begins and Jane uses her quickness to eliminate two of them. The mods unleash their monsters, and Bernie unexpectedly transforms into a scary beast that frightens Sam. Eventually, the two are reunited, but the flying monster emerges and wreaks havoc inside the school. A wild Bernie appears in the form of a chimera and helps John fight the monster, defeating it after a long battle. Bernie seems badly injured and eventually transforms himself back into a sweet dog. Jane, who is struggling, asks John to charge her with his lumen. The two proceed to fight the Mog, eventually eliminating it. The four of them run to the football field, where the Mog commander and another huge monster are waiting for them. Thanks to their combined skills, Jane and John manage to eliminate all the guards and nearly kill the commander. Jane, however, is captured by the flying monster and John helps her with the lumen. Eventually, Number 4 kills the commander and a huge explosion follows. Both survive the explosion thanks to Jane's fireproof ability, which shields John. The next day, they manage to connect the blue rocks. The device shows numbers 4 and 6 where the remaining Lorian's children are. Mark unexpectedly appears and gives John a strange box, which Mark retrieved from the police's evidence room. Sam joins the team, and John kisses Sarah for the last time before leaving. An injured Bernie arrives out of nowhere, and they all flee the town to go find the others. Thanks for watching. If you like our content, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe.